The Empire was a fierce and formidable foe, but there's a lot more to it than we see in the movies, but there are things you may have not known about it. From the very first moments of Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope, it was clear that the Galactic Empire was fierce but fascinating at the same time. There were the white armored stormtroopers firing at will, contrasted by the towering black-clad presence of Darth Vader. That combination of power was what the Empire was all about. The brutal violence of the stormtroopers and their technology, combined with the quieter, more spiritual brutality of the dark side of the Force. For most of its existence, the Empire was led by the evil Emperor Palpatine, also known as the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, with Vader as his loyal enforcer and apprentice. We know that from the movies, but there are many other facts about the Empire that we don't explicitly learn from the films, and we had to find other canon sources along with some real-life sources. So here are some of the best of those facts. Starting off, we have Palpatine's story mirrors the first Roman emperors. There are many similarities between the fictional life of Sheev Palpatine and the real life of ancient Roman politician Gaius Octavian, who led the Roman Empire from 27 BC to 14 AD. Both of them started as low-level politicians and worked their way up to a position of supreme leadership. Well, worked their way up is a little too kind of an expression for both men. What they both did was manipulate a democratic senate to shift power into their hands. Then they declared themselves emperor. Octavian and Palpatine both convinced their senates to give them great power during a tense time, claiming it would be temporary but never relinquishing their authoritative power. They claimed that their authoritarian rule was necessary because the Senate was corrupt. Finally, both had alternate names. Octavian was given the name Augustus, while we know that Palpatine was also known as the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious. What's also interesting is that the Empire was xenophobic. Despite the presence of the alien Mas Amedda in a key position, as well as a few other aliens, the Empire was quite xenophobic from the start and by design. For the Empire, it was simple. They believed non-humans were too strange to be welcome within their ranks. More often than not, if you saw an alien around the Death Star or aboard a Star Destroyer, it would be in a subservient role such as a slave. Nevertheless, in addition to Mas Amedda, there were a couple of aliens in key role positions. Grand Admiral Thrawn was a blue-chiss alien bent on destroying the fledgling rebellion in the years before the Battle of Yavin. Then there was the Grand Inquisitor, a Padawan alien and leader of the Inquisitorius, a group that searched out remaining Jedi. Meanwhile, the rebels would have been nowhere without their exclusive philosophy. Their alien contingent, including Wookiees like Chewbacca and Mon Calamari like Admiral Akbar, played key roles in their victory. But did you also know that there was a huge statue of Palpatine built in his image? It's not even just that he built it, it was where he built it. As the Empire first emerged as the ruling power, they symbolically took over Coruscant, which had been the home of the Republic they had just dismantled. That's where the Emperor's statue was built, just outside the Senate building in the Senate Plaza, which had been renamed to the Imperial Plaza so folks wouldn't be reminded of the Republic's Senate. Incidentally, the statue's placement was perhaps even more symbolic in Legends, where it was erected in the partial destroyed Jedi Temple, also on Coruscant. Something that's common but overlooked is the Holonet was a propaganda machine for the Empire. Any authoritarian regime worth its salt has to control facts, because they don't want any objective truth to reveal any possible weaknesses. They need to appear as though they were the strongest power possible that offers the best life for its people. In order to control the public's perception of what the facts are, they not only have to suppress the public's faith in existing media, but eventually make their media the only media the public is consuming. So it was for the Empire, the Holonet was a communication system first used by the Republic, then taken over by the Empire to broadcast the Holonet news. It was Tarkin's idea to restrict the system for the Empire's use only, to broadcast as propaganda after it was discovered that rebels were using it to organize their plans. Nevertheless, the rebellion was still able to find a secret channel on the Holonet to communicate plans to others within their uprising. Another thing that's really intriguing though is that Palpatine wasn't the only Imperial leader calling the top shots. Palpatine established the Empire and was the first Emperor, but we all know he was defeated at the end of Return of the Jedi when his apprentice tossed him down the bottomless pit. That, along with the destruction of the second Death Star and everyone in it, created a bit of stability problem at the top of the Empire's chain of command, to say the least. But there were other leaders after Palpatine to various degrees within canon. The big blue horn alien Mas Amedda was Palpatine's right-hand man and was a natural successor to Palpatine's leadership duties, so he came first. But he was never fully recognized as Emperor and didn't have a ton of power. For a time, Fleet Admiral Gallius Rax and Grand Admiral Ray Sloane were co-leaders of sorts. Rax was a conniving sort who often stayed behind the scenes, while Sloane was more visible to the public. Throughout the post-Palpatine era, there were a number of other lesser pretenders and claimants to the throne.